She walked out on me the night my mother died. I'll never forget it. The way she stood at the doorway, one hand on the handle of her suitcase, eyes cold, lips pursed like she was doing me a favor by saying goodbye. And just like that, Jade was gone. No explanation, no comfort, no apology. Just silence. And then the click of the front door closing behind her. That sound haunted me for months. I'm not the kind of man who breaks easy. I've been through things, laid off twice, got back on my feet, watched my father slip away from cancer while working 2 jobs. But that night broke something in me. My mom had been fighting for her life in a hospital bed for weeks. I had been sleeping in waiting room chairs, living off vending machine coffee, and praying like hell that I wouldn't have to say goodbye. Jade said she'd be there for me. Always, she said. That's what love is, right? Showing up when it matters most. But when I needed her the most, when I needed someone to hold me while my world fell apart, she dipped, disappeared into the night without so much as a backward glance. I tried calling. I begged for an explanation. I left voicemails, texts, even an old school email, hoping maybe she just needed space. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Nothing, no response. So I buried my mother with a broken heart and an empty chair next to me at the service, one that Jade promised she'd fill. That's the part that stung the most. Not just her absence, but the betrayal of her promise, the lie of forever. And yet, here we are, 18 months later. Life's moved on, or at least I pretended it has. I started my own carpentry business. I've worked my ass off, rebuilding piece by piece. I didn't think I'd hear from her again. Until last night. I was sitting in the shop late, smoothing the edge of a cedar table I'd been working on, when my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in over a year lit up my screen. I stared at it like it was a ghost. Hey, I know it's been a long time, but I really need your help. It's urgent. Please. I should have deleted it, should have ignored it, should have laughed, but I didn't. Instead, my thumb hovered. And then I opened the message. I read it. I reread it, and that's when I felt it. The pit in my stomach, the burning in my chest, the flood of emotions I'd buried coming back with a vengeance. Because after all that silence, all that pain, all that betrayal, Jade wasn't back to say sorry. She was back because she wanted something. And this time, it wasn't love. It was money. She wants me to pay for her surgery. I didn't respond right away. That message sat on my phone like a landmine, waiting to blow up everything I'd spent a year building back. I stared at it for hours, reading between the lines, searching for some sign of sincerity, of remorse, something, anything that made it seem like this wasn't just another hit and run from Jade. But there was nothing. No, I'm sorry. No, I messed up. No, how have you been? Just, I need you. The next morning, I gave in and texted back. Not out of compassion, out of curiosity. Out of that sick, unsettled itch that comes when someone's ghost suddenly reappears, pretending like they didn't vanish when you needed them most. I kept it short. What's going on? She replied within minutes. Can we talk? I really need to explain. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet. We chose a coffee shop on the east side of town, neutral ground, public, safe. When I walked in and saw her sitting by the window, it was like a punch to the gut. She looked different. Thinner, tired, her once flawless makeup replaced with dark circles and raw skin. She wasn't the same confident woman who used to dance barefoot in my kitchen, teasing me with that crooked smile. She looked haunted. Hey, she said softly, like we were old friends catching up. I sat down and folded my arms. Cut to it, Jade. She exhaled. I've been sick for months. Ovarian issues. I need surgery. The kind insurance doesn't fully cover. I just stared at her. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious, she continued. I've tried everything, credit, family, friends, but they've either turned their backs or don't have it. I didn't know where else to go. You thought of me, I said, more bitter than I meant to. The guy you left in the middle of the worst night of his life? Her eyes dropped. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I was overwhelmed, scared. I panicked. No, Jade, you abandoned me. I wasn't ready to deal with all that. Your mom dying, the grief, the weight of it all. I felt suffocated. I was drowning too. I scoffed. So you left me to drown alone? There was a long silence between us. People sipped lattes and scrolled their phones around us like nothing monumental was happening. I felt like screaming. She slid a piece of paper across the table, a printout of a medical estimate, surgery cost, medications, pre-op exams. The number at the bottom was large, but not impossible. Not for someone like me who'd been saving up for a new truck, a new life. "Please," she whispered. "This is real. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't." I took the paper, shoved it into my jacket pocket, and walked out without a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just the ask. It was everything underneath it. The way she looked at me, like we could just rewind, like time hadn't passed, like the hurt wasn't still raw. And then there were the questions swirling in my head. Why me? Why now? The next day I did something I probably shouldn't have. I checked her Instagram. Most of her posts were gone, scrubbed, but a few older ones were still up. Photos from before she left me. Happy ones. Us at the lake. Us building that stupid IKEA shelf. Then, nothing. Complete digital silence for months. Except for one tagged photo. From 3 weeks ago. It was blurry, taken at night, but there she was, laughing, wine glass in hand, standing on someone's rooftop, with a guy's arm wrapped tight around her waist. My chest tightened. The caption read, "Amazing weekend with this beauty heart at Jade /XO. He was tagged, some guy named Tyler. I clicked through, private account, but his bio said, real estate investor, /stars, NYC, keep hustling. That didn't match the story she told me. Sick, desperate, alone. I felt a pit form in my stomach. Something wasn't right. Maybe she was sick. Or maybe this was just another hustle, another story spun out of desperation or manipulation. I started thinking back to the last year of our relationship, moments I had brushed off, the late-night texts she'd hide, the business trips that came out of nowhere, the way she'd emotionally check out anytime things got too real. I thought she was just anxious, overwhelmed, trying to protect herself, but maybe she was always halfway out the door. Maybe the night she left wasn't about my grief. Maybe it was just finally her excuse. I needed answers, real ones. Because if I was about to pull from the savings I built from sweat and heartbreak, I needed to know the truth. And something inside me told me, I didn't have it yet. I couldn't let it go. Not this time. Not after everything. After that night at the coffee shop, something in me shifted. I wasn't just angry. I was awake. The fog of pain and heartbreak that had clouded me for so long was finally lifting, and in its place came a steady, pulsing need for the truth. I wasn't going to be played again. Not by her. Not by anyone. So, I started digging. I went back through old texts, old emails, anything I still had from our time together. Little things started standing out. Travel receipts that didn't add up, mysterious Venmo charges labeled with just emojis, wine glasses, planes, hearts. I remembered her saying she was visiting her cousin in Chicago one weekend. I found a flight confirmation in her inbox, to Miami. Back then, I didn't question it. I trusted her. That's on me. But now I saw the pattern. And it was ugly. I still had a buddy, Malik, who worked in data recovery and IT security. He owed me a favor from a job I helped him finish last summer, built him a whole custom oak bar top for his basement. I gave him a call and explained the situation, told him I had an old external hard drive where Jade had once backed up her laptop, and I needed to see if anything could be recovered. He didn't ask questions. 3 days later, Malik called me back. "Bro," he said, "you're not going to believe what's on this drive." "What do you mean?" "Screenshots, bank transfers, photos, voice memos. This girl kept everything. It's like she was documenting her whole double life." My heart sank. "Send it over." He sent a file, encrypted, password protected. I opened it that night, sitting alone at my kitchen table with a beer in hand and a storm raging outside. The first thing I saw was a series of messages. Jade to someone named Tyler, the same guy from that Instagram tag. Jade, he's still hung up on me. I could probably get him to help if I play it right. Tyler, you sure? That's cold, babe. Jade, Desperate times. Medical bills don't pay themselves. Tyler, you think he'd still fall for it after what happened? Jade, guilt is a powerful currency. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a lie. It was a plan, premeditated, manipulative. She hadn't come to me out of need. She came with a script, a scheme. She'd sized me up, calculated my grief, my history, my generosity, and decided I was weak enough to exploit again. There were photos too, her and Tyler in Vegas, laughing at a blackjack table, her in a hospital gown, smiling, flashing a peace sign. The timestamp was over a year ago. She already had the surgery. This wasn't about health. This was about money. I'd become her fallback plan, the emotional ATM she could withdraw from any time life got inconvenient. I stared at my laptop screen for a long time. Rage pulsed in my jaw. I could feel my teeth grinding. But then, something shifted. I didn't throw the laptop. I didn't scream. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. "Okay," I whispered. "You want to play games? Fine. Let's play." The next few days, I laid low. I didn't respond to her follow-up messages. I told no one, except Malik, what I knew. Instead, I started planning. First, I gathered everything: screenshots, files, bank statements, voice memos. I labeled it all neatly in a folder on a USB drive. Evidence. Not just of the scam, but of the emotional manipulation, the pattern of deceit. I even recorded a voice memo of myself explaining everything, just in case I needed to send it somewhere official. I was thinking 3 steps ahead. Then I reached out to Sarah, an old friend of mine who worked at a nonprofit for medical debt relief. We hadn't spoken in years, but she always had a sharp eye for scams. I sent her the files anonymously. A few hours later, she called me, furious. "You were going to give her money?" she said. "This is fraud. If she's used this story with anyone else, she could be in legal trouble." "That's why I need your help," I said. "I'm not looking for revenge. I just want to make sure no one else falls for it." Sarah agreed to look deeper. She had connections, ways to check if Jade had been running this same con with others, through online GoFundMe campaigns, fake invoices, donation drives. Within a day, she found a post Jade had taken down 2 months ago, a fake cancer fundraiser with a different name listed as the patient. That sealed it. This wasn't just about me. Jade had made a business out of betrayal. I was no longer the heartbroken ex. I was the man pulling the curtain back. And as much as it still hurt, seeing how easily she'd used me, how callous her words had been, I felt something new stirring in me. Not rage, not sorrow, power. I'd been a pawn in her game before. But now I was the one holding the board. And Jade had no idea what was coming. The trap had to be perfect. No theatrics, no shouting matches. I wanted Jade to walk herself right into the truth, while I sat there watching the walls close in. I waited until Friday. That was when she messaged again. "Please, can we talk?" "I'm getting desperate," I responded this time. "Come by the shop, tomorrow at noon, we'll talk then." My wood shop was quiet on Saturdays. No appointments, no staff, just me. I cleared the space, locked the front, and set the USB drive neatly on the workbench, next to 2 mugs of coffee and a recording device I kept for client disputes. This time, it would be recording something far more personal. When Jade walked in, her face was a mix of relief and exhaustion. She was dressed down, jeans, hoodie, makeup barely there. It was a look calculated to say, "I'm suffering." But her eyes, they darted too much. Nervous. She was trying to keep the performance together. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. I nodded to the chair across from me. "Sit." She sat down slowly, cupping the coffee like it was freezing outside, though it was 78 and sunny. "I've been trying to find the right words," she began, "but I don't even know where to start. I know I don't deserve your help, or even your forgiveness." I raised a hand. "Don't worry about the words, Jade. I've already got them." She blinked. "What?" I reached over and tapped the USB drive. "These, your words, Tyler's too, along with screenshots, transfer records, GoFundMe archives, and a lovely set of photos of you in Vegas, post-surgery. Quite the collection." Her face turned pale. "You really think people don't back up their old hard drives?" I added. "Malik says hi, by the way." She looked like she'd just swallowed glass. You went through my stuff? No, you left your stuff when you left me. You just didn't think I'd ever stop hurting long enough to actually look at it. I didn't mean to. Stop, I said. Stop lying. You knew exactly what you were doing. You walked out the night my mom died, and now you come back begging. No, strategizing to drain me again? It wasn't like that, she said, voice shaking. I was sick. I did have the surgery. A year ago, and you already paid for it. So why fake an emergency now? Why dig up the past? She hesitated. I'm in trouble. Tyler left. The money's gone. I made mistakes, okay? I thought maybe you'd still care. Enough to fund your mess? I leaned in. Jade, I buried the only person who ever showed me unconditional love while you were packing your bags. And now you want to cash in on my grief? Tears welled in her eyes, but I'd seen this before. The performance, the quiver in her voice, the way she curled into herself like a wounded animal, always ready to weaponize sympathy. Please, she whispered. I know I hurt you. I hate myself for it, but I'm drowning. I looked her dead in the eye. You built the boat, and you set it on fire. I stood up and walked to the side table, grabbing a manila envelope. Here's what's going to happen, I said, tossing it in front of her. This is a summary of everything I have. Evidence, dates, your messages. I made copies, sent one to a friend in legal aid, another to a fraud investigation unit through a nonprofit I trust. You've run this scam before, Jade. You're not just messing with me. You're messing with people, real people. She stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. If you even think about contacting me again, I continued, I will make it my mission to ensure you never do this to anyone else. You can try tears, guilt, whatever game you think works, but I'm done playing. She stood up slowly. You don't understand. I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice, I said coldly. You chose easy money over honesty. You chose running over staying. And now you're choosing manipulation over redemption. She opened her mouth to speak, but I beat her to it. Get out. For a second, I thought she might fight. But then, she broke. Not dramatically, not with sobs or screams. Just a quiet collapse in her shoulders. A woman who had finally realized the one man she could always outplay had stopped being her safety net. She left without another word. I stood in that workshop long after she was gone, the silence heavy, thick with closure. My hands were shaking, not from anger anymore, but from adrenaline, from years of grief finally finding a release valve. I wasn't the same man she walked out on, and I wasn't the fool she thought I still was. For the first time in a long time, I felt something deep in my gut. Not sorrow, not rage. Peace. Justice doesn't always look like a courtroom or a headline. Sometimes it looks like holding your ground. Sometimes it sounds like the soft click of a door closing for the last time. It didn't take long for the ripple effect to hit. 2 weeks after our final conversation, I got a call from Sarah, the nonprofit contact I'd sent everything to. Her voice was calm, but laced with purpose. We passed your files to the right people, she said. Turns out Jade wasn't just running a private hustle. She'd scammed 3 different online communities with fake medical campaigns, raised over 30 grand between them. A couple of victims came forward once they saw the screenshots you provided. Legal proceedings had begun. Fraud, misrepresentation, wire fraud across state lines. Terms I never thought I'd hear in connection with someone I once thought I'd marry. Sarah mentioned that one of the fundraisers had included fabricated doctor statements. That alone could land her serious jail time. The fallout online was fast and brutal. Screenshots leaked. Old GoFundMe campaigns resurfaced. People started connecting dots, comparing stories. Jade's name was suddenly viral, but not the kind of viral anyone wants. Her social media vanished overnight. Gone, erased. But the damage had already been done. Tyler, her once charming partner in crime, surfaced briefly to distance himself from her. He posted a long-winded caption about being deceived and taken advantage of, but one of the victims had proof he helped her craft the donation pitches. That little PR attempt backfired fast. Meanwhile, I kept my head down. I didn't speak publicly, didn't gloat. I stayed focused on my work, on the tables and chairs and shelves I built with my hands, because they were real, honest. uncomplicated. But in private, I felt it all. The relief, the sorrow, the bitter twinge of what could have been. Some days I missed her. Not Jade the manipulator, but Jade the woman I once loved. The one who stayed up with me when my father was dying, who danced barefoot to Stevie Nicks in my living room, who said she wanted forever. It's hard to accept that those moments were real, and still know the person behind them was capable of so much cruelty. But the peace was louder than the pain. I started sleeping better. I stopped flinching every time my phone buzzed. I even let myself smile again. Real smiles, not the forced kind I used to wear to hide the hurt. People at the shop noticed. Malik came by one afternoon, grinned, and said, "You look lighter, man, like you're finally breathing." I was. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding my breath, waiting for the next wave to knock me down. I had faced the storm. I had stood my ground. And while the scars were still there, some deep, some healing, I knew I'd done the right thing. I chose truth over fantasy. I chose dignity over desperation. And I chose me over the ghost of someone who never truly stayed. 6 months later, I found myself in a place I never thought I'd reach, calm, content, and quietly proud of the man I'd become. My shop was thriving. I'd hired 2 new apprentices, expanded into a second bay, and finally bought that truck I'd been saving for. Not out of impulse, not to fill a void, but because it made sense, because I was building a life on my own terms without the weight of someone else's chaos dragging behind me. More than anything, I had clarity, the kind that only comes after you've been broken, stitched yourself back together, and realized you're stronger for every scar you carry. Some days, I'd still think about her. Not often, but when I did, it wasn't with rage or longing. It was with quiet understanding. Jade had shown me who she was, and in doing so, she'd forced me to meet, at myself head on. I had to confront the part of me that always wanted to fix things, the part that mistook loyalty for self-sacrifice, the part that clung to promises long after they'd been shattered. That version of me, the one who would have emptied his savings just to feel needed, was gone. Now, I held my own boundaries. I didn't apologize for protecting my peace. I didn't chase people who walked away. I learned to let them go and trust that whatever left was never meant to stay. One afternoon, I was finishing up a custom order for a couple getting married, a walnut dining table engraved with their initials, when a woman stopped by the shop. Her name was Lauren. She was helping her sister furnish a new bakery and had heard about my work through word of mouth. She stayed longer than expected, asked smart questions, laughed at my bad jokes. The way she talked reminded me of warmth, not the kind that burns too bright too fast, but the kind that lingers, steady and safe. We exchanged numbers, had coffee the next week, then dinner, then another. I didn't rush anything. I wasn't desperate to fill a void. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could sit across from someone and be completely myself. No masks, no fear, no wounds bleeding out between the lines. I told her about Jade eventually. Not all at once, but enough for her to understand the road I'd walked. She didn't flinch, she listened, and when I finished, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're still standing." That tells me everything I need to know. That hit me deep, because that's what this whole journey had been about. Not revenge, not punishment, not proving Jade wrong. It was about proving me right, that I could survive heartbreak without losing my heart, that I could be betrayed without becoming bitter, that I could be used and still believe in love. So here I am now, stronger, wiser, at peace. I don't look back in regret. I look back with respect for the man who walked through fire and didn't let it turn him to ash. Sometimes the people who break you are the ones who make you. And sometimes losing the wrong person is exactly how you find the right version of yourself. Looking back, I used to think betrayal was the worst thing a person could experience. But now I know it's not the betrayal itself that destroys you. It's what you choose to believe about yourself afterward. Jade leaving me the night my mother died, that shattered something deep inside me. But it wasn't just her absence that hurt. It was the lie I told myself in the aftermath, that I wasn't enough, that if I'd just been stronger, quieter, more forgiving, maybe she would have stayed. That kind of thinking is poison, slow, quiet poison that eats at your worth from the inside out. It took time and pain and, yes, a storm of truth to realize that her actions were never a reflection of my value. They were a reflection of her own fear, her selfishness, her inability to face real love with real courage. You can't save someone who's determined to run, and you sure as hell can't bleed yourself dry trying to water someone else's garden. What I've learned is this: resilience isn't just about surviving the blow. It's about rising with purpose afterward. It's choosing to rebuild with more intention, more clarity, more self-respect. It's knowing that your scars are not signs of weakness. They're proof you didn't stay broken. And if someone comes back asking for a piece of you after tearing you apart, you owe them nothing, but you owe yourself everything. I don't hate Jade, not anymore. I hope she finds healing, even if it never crosses paths with justice. But I'll never again mistake her kind of love for anything real, because real love shows up. Real love stays. Real love doesn't ask you to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. So, if you're listening to this and you've been there, left behind, lied to, manipulated, let me say this clearly. You are not the weakness they mistook you for. You are the lesson they never deserved to learn twice. And the moment you stop chasing the ones who break you is the moment you start becoming the person they never had the strength to be. Don't wait for an apology to move on. Be your own closure. Be your own redemption.